So when the rod holder is upside down, you line up the top of your drill with the top of the rod holder, and then hold your drill at the exact same angle as the rod holder as you are drilling, which allows you to drill the perfect angle for your rod holder hole. But that makes getting the hole started critically important, and that's just a small taste of what you're about to learn. You'll also want to stay to the end of the video because we'll be giving away one of our brand new BAB Seafoam Faded shirts, now available at bornagainboating.com/shop, link in the description. Now, a good question to ask is, how many rod holders does a boat really need? And for many that fish, the answer is usually just more, regardless of how many are already in the boat. There are also all kinds of different options out there for adding rod holders to your boat. Some of the quicker options are actually just simple rod holder tridents or triple offsets. These are just basically 3 rod holders that are welded together on a frame that spaces them out properly, and you just drop this into an existing rod holder, allowing you to add 3 more rod holders just like that. The offset one is pretty much the same as the trident, but the holders all go off to one side from your original rod holder's location. You can find these in different variations, like ones that have a built-in tool tray for holding different stuff like hooks or whatever, and along with that same design, you can find these drop-in rod holder additions all the way up to a 5-banger that will hold 5 more rods from your one original rod holder. These are going to be your drop-in style of rod holder additions. You can also find a massive array of clamp-on holders as well, like the ones from Taco Marine, which is what we have on our boat. These are all just simple holders that will clamp onto your T-top, or you can put them on your bow rail or even the rails to your windshield around the console, whatever situation you might have on your boat. But these can also come in a rocket launcher form or a rod holder rack type of setup, where you can get like 5 or so angle adjustable rod holders that are all built onto one rack that is then clamped onto your T-top or wherever you want to clamp the rail to. Then you are going to have a few different bolt-on types of holder assemblies that will be just a variety of rod holders that can be bolted in whatever location you might want to add more holders to. You can find rod holder trees like this, or you can find the more common style of rod holders that are in a line like this, that usually get bolted onto the sides of the console or somewhere in the transom area of the boat. We can go ahead and include the gunnel style of rod holders in this section as well though, which can have a few variations of this type as well, from the styles that more cradle the rods and have bungees to keep them into place, to the circle styles that have sleeves that will spin with an opening in them so that you can put your rod into the circle and spin the sleeve to secure the rod into the holder. Again, these are another super common type of rod holder design that bolts into place. But the circle style can be super useful if you have a cabin on your boat and would like to store the rods up on the ceiling of the cabin or under a larger hardtop, which is a really common location to find these mounted to. Then of course, there are your single bolt-on mounted rod holders that can be used to stick a rod holder off the back of a transom or on the side of a cabin or something like that. There are of course many more custom options of rod holders that you can find that come in fish cleaning or bait tables or leaning posts, but that is going to cover the most common, easiest addition form of adding rod holders to your boat. The most popular and the most obvious way to add rod holders to your boat though are going to be your traditional flush mount or drop-in rod holders, which usually come in a couple of different angled options, usually a 0, 15, or 30 degree angle, which will change the angle of how your rod will stick out from the rod holder. The location of where you install the holders is ultimately going to dictate what degree holder you are able to install and where. Like installing on the gunnel, depending on the depth of the gunnel and if you have enough room for the holder to stick down under the top of the gunnel, take this spot here on this boat right next to where the fuel tank fill is. The rod holder is going to go in a position where something else was previously mounted, so it's going to be covering up an old mark in the non-skid here. But underneath the gunnel, here we've got this water line, the fuel fill hose, and the fuel tank vent hose. So the angle of the rod holder is super important to consider, especially before drilling any holes in the boat. Depending on what is in the way under where you are drilling is going to determine your angle for your hole saw, which is what you are going to need in order to drill out the hole for the holder. But they really aren't that bad to drill out, and with only 3 little tips, they are a breeze and don't take that long to finish. The first thing is going to be to make sure you have the correct hole saw for the rod holder, which is usually around a 2-inch to a 2 1/4 inch hole saw. but different rod holders can vary, some depending on the thickness of the metal and the welds that are on the top of the holder. So just hold your hole saw up to the bottom of the rod holder to make sure you use the right one that isn't going to be too big and not give you enough meat left in the gunnel for the screws to hold on to. And when it comes to what screws to use, the size of the countersink in the holder will kind of determine that for you, but usually a number 12 or a number 14 would be the best. Also, yes, self-tappers are way easier when it comes to the installation of the rod holder, but when you are talking about holding on to a couple $100 or a couple $1,000 fishing rod setup, I would, whenever possible, try to find a way to use bolts and lock nuts on them with the biggest size washer you can fit between the rod holder and the bolt itself. It's going to be way more secure and less likely to rip out of the boat and fail. Plus, a lot of quality rod holders come with a metal backing plate to go under the gunnel anyway, securing that holder down to the boat. So once you've got your hole saw picked out, if it's your first time doing this, I would say to get yourself a piece of wood just to practice on before you get onto your boat and just send it. Now, getting the hole started is crucial. When we talk about sending it, a lot of people like to leave right out the gate at 100%, but in this case, or with any cutting tool really, the right speed is crucial. You want to allow the teeth of the blade to do all of the work in the cutting department. So what we'll do is mark out where the rod holder is going to go, and when you've got your center point ready, start the drill bit into the fiberglass or the test piece of wood if it's your trial run and you're just trying to get the bit started, holding the drill straight up and down. Then with that bit about 1/8 of an inch down into whatever you're drilling into, what we'll do next is super simple. We'll want to flip the rod holder we are going to use upside down next to our drill. And when the rod holder is upside down, you line up the top of your drill with the top of the rod holder, and then hold your drill at the exact same angle as the rod holder as you are drilling, which allows you to drill the perfect angle for your rod holder hole. All you do is go slow and allow the hole saw to do all the work in doing the cutting. You don't need to put a lot of pressure on it. Now you can just drill out the hole and you can drop the holder down into the hole and it's going to sit flush and pretty just like it should. With that sitting flush, we can now just drill out the holes one at a time, and I like to drop a screw down into the hole once it's drilled just to keep all the holes straight. Then once they are drilled out, we'll just seal up the hole and drop the rod holder down into position and bolt it up. Now, something that is another option when it comes to the size of the hole saw is that there are a ton of popular cup holder rod holders out there now, and you'll just want to make sure that you use the right size hole saw for the cup to sink down into and sit flush like it's supposed to. But these are super sweet for all kinds of locations, like up in the front of the boat near the seat of the center console or something like that. Now make sure you are subscribed to the channel and let us know how many hashtag rod holders you have on your boat for your chance to win the new Seafoam Faded BAB shirt, and check out this video here that you may have missed.